I was talking about being a coon. My experiences. So in the last video, I was talking about like two main black masculinity archetypes. Oh my god, the nigger and the coon. And I was basically talking about like how all my life I had to fight nigga, yeah. And I feel like I'm gonna try bring a bit more nuance or like a personal experience to like the tussle of it all, of like, again, like, so as the way I ended off the last video, I feel like I definitely lean towards like the coon archetype, not fully, and I don't think it needs to be like 100% you're an even nigger or a coon. I feel like we both, like, all black men suffer under the hands of these archetypes, but we're just kind of given them anyway, and it's like, here you go. And I think that's the point I was making with like, in media representation, it being like really just bad, and it's either like, here you go, like, enjoy your hood drama, you know, like, enjoy your drill. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's like, it can lead to like feelings of like insecurity in your masculinity. And again, you can go two ways with this fight. You can either end up like a nigger or a coon. I'm so funny, but it can go either way. But I feel like with me, because I wasn't like super into sport, or like even like, it's like growing up not necessarily liking like sport, things that were attributed to masculinity, but finding things like that were more feminine. Like I was a bit more creative. Like I liked playing with toys and like creating stories, and like I liked music. So I think within, like, you for me, I always needed to find like a justification to like why I wasn't like really super into like the masculine stuff. And I think like throughout primary school, I got on well. And actually that's when like I kind of got into more like science fiction, Doctor Who, getting really into Doctor Who. So that you kind of, I had some sense of masculine affirmation in the fact that like I didn't necessarily like sport, couldn't be interested in football. Everyone's telling me I should bloody play basketball, or football, because I have really big feet. Like I was size 10 in year 4 or 5, I can't remember, but I had big feet. But I think it got worse. Like I think that real like fight, all my life I've had to fight. And he was spitting on that though. He was really spitting on that. It got particularly worse when I got to secondary school. And I think it extends to a conversation about youth culture, because I think, that's where the conversation links. That's where it links. Because growing up as a black male, inherently, you don't see yourself really represented. Like there was 3 black people. And I think speaking from my perspective, what my family did is like, I was very aware of like my black identity and taking pride in my blackness, because again, there's a lot of forces that don't want you to kind of take pride in that. Again, like I was talking about Red Nose Day, World Book Day, things like that. My blackness is something that prohibits me from interacting with, fully immersing myself with like, again, white British culture. And I talked about like how I watched In-Betweeners when I was 5, when I was in year 5, so I would have been like 10. And those what I was seeing was like completely morally just like inadept with the way I'd been brought up. Like it just didn't. No, I wasn't raised like that. But then you go to secondary school, and then particularly, I think it's the secondary school I went to where it was very like, there was a color line. There was it was a pretty 50-50 split color line. Like I had a problem with like assimilating to whiteness, because like racism and stuff. But then it was like kind of like some of the first times like I'd realized that I didn't necessarily align with blackness. And I don't mean it like that per se, but as in like, for example, I would say black youth culture, urban, I hate that word, but urban youth culture, and things that could be ascribed to that nigger archetype, I didn't, it just didn't, it didn't, I didn't really necessarily grow up exposed to like black male youth culture, like grime, drill kind of was like I was in secondary school during the birth of the drill genre. I kind of grew up in a bubble anyway, just in the sense of like, and I guess it's also the thing of being like well spoken. Like I think sometimes when you're well spoken or you speak a certain way, you're not perceived as like black enough. And actually, I'm gonna pause. Because I feel like I just don't want to be like, you know, those like, yeah, the black people never liked me and like they're just bare bitter about life. I'm not bitter. But I wasn't able to tap into the coolness of black masculinity. So again, I was talking about in the last video how the nigger archetype, it taps into like things like hypersexuality, hyper physicality, traits which have a lot of proximity to coolness, not necessarily popularity, but this idea of being cool. I didn't really fit in. I just didn't really fit in. And luckily, again, and I think like experiences like that, where you're told you're not black enough, or you are told you're a coon, or you're told you're an Oreo, because you don't quite fit into like this cool blackness. Again, what like I was calling the nigger masculinity art, but I think cool, like think in this like right now, calling it like this cool commodified form of black masculinity. You don't really fit into it. But then I didn't fall into that pipeline of like really desiring assimilation from like white people. And again, that like particular form of like lad culture I was talking about, like it's like the whole thing of like banter, which sometimes can just be thought like it could just be used to mask and to cultivate, prop up racism, misogyny, homophobia, just general intolerance. Like I couldn't, I can't. And I was close. No, I'm not gonna, I was close. Because I think, again, it's that all my life I've had to that. But again, I did have that sense of like I'm black and I'm, no, not black, yeah, black pride, but like, I did have like this strange sense of like individualism, and I kind of really clinged onto that. But even then still, like I do, and something I'm dealing with, like as I'm exiting like my teenage years is something that I've had to like grapple with, this idea of not feeling black enough or not feeling validated like in my black masculinity. Like I've tried, you know, and I think what was really hard for me, it was because there's only like very few expressions of black masculinity. Anything I was compared to was just a bit of an insult. Like, why are you calling me Everybody Hates Chris? For me, not now. Like, I laugh. I have, you know, we can laugh about it. You're so stupid. Shut up. Anyway, but like the people that you're comparing me to is just a bit like, whoa, what are you trying to say? Like that's not representative of who I am, because I just think it's a bit of an insult. But I guess it's the same thing when like, it's the same thing where like black people get compared to like just stupid things like Top Boy. Oh my God. And it's interesting because when I was in this was after secondary school, but like I was in a white working environment, and someone compared me to Deshane. I like, if you know me, like it's like even do I give off like Deshane vibes? Do I present like the shade? Okay. It's just about really having no really choice about how you're going to be perceived by the world. Do you get what I mean? And I feel like white people, they have a luxury of just having like so many like clear subcultures, like subcultures that they can like be easily like identified with, that can be easily identified. But like with black people, it's like you're either this or you're that. And then when you're outside of the what's perceived to be cool, um this commodified urban cool blackness, when you sit outside of that, it's like you're either a coon because you're not that. But then when you don't want to be a coon, like you don't want to be, I'm sorry, like I'm not going to be laughing with you, white people. And again, I say, and I'm going to make my experiences very clear. The reason why is because it just is just the casual racism and the complete like oh god, let me break the silence. Like in secondary school, you're having to argue with people about racism. They're telling you that racism isn't a thing. They're telling you that reverse racism is really a thing, and that the white middle class male, the young white middle class working weather male, is actually the most prejudiced, and that positive discrimination is just like crippling them. And then in the same breath, these people are gonna be like muttering the N-word, like they're gonna be saying the N-word and thinking it's funny, and then only unless you set a boundary, which they wouldn't try with, again, they wouldn't try with the other black people, the black people that again lean towards like the nigger archetype, because it's that threat of actually like, oh, like it could be like the threat of like physical violence, like being G-checked or whatever, which are just words that are thrown so casually around in youth culture. But anyway, it's just the disrespect in that sense. It's that thing of like, because you're like, we see you're not like you're not like a nigger, like you can just then take the piss. And I don't like that. That's why I couldn't. I just couldn't, because then when BLM in 2020's come in, your DMs are just now full. Your DMs are just now full with, I just want to, I just want in the ditch now. Yeah, black people, we just don't have that. We don't have the flavor. We don't have the flavor, and only now are we starting to get that kind of nuance and stuff. But then it just kind of pisses me off that when it becomes palatable to white people, and this is why I'm not really for I'm not really for trying to make blackness. It's interesting because I can say that, but it's actually necessary to like develop and normalize like different black masculinity archetypes and cultures, whatever. But I'm speaking from my experience. When like a new show comes out with like a new black character, or someone who's like quite revolutionary in beating these archetypes of like black masculinity, like these white people are just trying to box you. Like when Sex Education came out, oh my gosh, you're like Eric. You remind me of Eric. Like jump on a stick and just stop that. Stop that. But yeah, we need it. We need more shades of black masculinity. And that could be for a next conversation. Yeah. We'll leave that there. And I'm dressed as Will Smith because Will Smith is like I feel like Will Smith's a good representation of like that coon archetype. People, oh yeah, Will Smith. You're like Will Smith. Oh, actually, oh my God, let's talk about it. Let's talk about how like, but then like, it's interesting then, even when black people, like white people, do normally cast you like outside of this box of like what's urban blackness, when they cast you outside of that, when it's convenient for them, they'll throw you back in that box so they can turn around and call you a nigger. even when I went to Russia, oh my God, like people, a 15-year-old, you're calling me Mike Tyson. Oh my God, KSI. Oh my God. You remind me of KSI. Don't even get me started. But yeah, like when I went to Russia, like there are people calling me Mike Tyson, just like these really like extreme forms of black masculinity, which is really weird. But yeah, I think that's it. I like this video.